James Gilliland has been running the ECETI, that's Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence Ranch in Mount Adams, Washington, for 40 years. And in that time, he's been able to photograph and film thousands of UFOs, extraterrestrial craft. People had visited from all over the world and had experiences with extraterrestrials and inner Earth beings. He's recently established a similar ranch in Hawaii, which he hopes to make public very soon. And he's here on Exopolitics Today to tell us about his latest information about enlightened contact with extraterrestrials.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Well, welcome back, James, to Exopolitics Today.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show.
Well, great to have you back. I mean, you've been around for decades, and you're probably one of the most experienced people around when it comes to contact with extraterrestrials. And I know your ranch is all about helping people have similar contacts. So, I mean, the name ECETI, I think it's a really fascinating one, Enlightened Contact. So tell us, how you came up with that name and how people have been able to have these experiences at the ranch.
Well, basically what I found out was when I started the ranch, I was starting a healing center, and we were doing a lot of process-oriented therapy and things like that. And I realized that basically most people's problems come from, wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions from past experiences. And those hold them back, from experiencing their multidimensional selves. And so our main focus was that. And then we had masters appearing, we had photographs of masters and on a regular basis and beautiful beings. And then the very spiritually and technologically advanced off-world beings started showing up. And so I had to incorporate that into my belief system in the ranch because everybody's having contacts. But, I always knew UFOs exist. As a kid, I had a lot of contacts, and my dad would pull over on the road and say, "Get out." And we'd get out, and he'd point up, and there'd be like 5 ships over the car. And so I think from the age of basically 4, maybe 5 on, I was dying in the hospital. So they kept coming to my parents and saying, "We don't think he's going to make it through the night." And this being all dressed in blue kept appearing to me and pulled me through that. And so I've had kind of this off-world thing and multidimensional life since I was 4 or 5 years old. The door's been wide open. And then I had a drowning again at 25, where I went through the tunnel and ended up in that plane of bliss and was hanging out there for a while. And so that door has been open. So it's opened me up to what I call multidimensional mind or interdimensional mind. And so I just have had constant contacts, over my whole life, and just about every aspect of it, from the good, bad, and the ugly, all different elements. And so I was on a crash course. I had to learn how to heal unseen negative influences, how to set boundaries, and things like that. And then all these other people kept coming to me with having the same issues, and some were being terrorized, or some were having amazing experiences, but they didn't know how to explain them. And so we would help people and support them in their process and show them how to heal unseen negative influences and things like that. Because we have a saying, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened, and just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent. And there's a lot of people that are only teaching one side of the coin, and we need to, enlightenment means to be in knowledge of both sides of the coin and learn how to set boundaries and clear unseen negative influences.
Yeah, that's very important. What you said, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened, and just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent. How do you distinguish between the two? I know there's a lot of people that channel, and they think they're channeling Sananda or Archangel Michael, or they're channeling whatever ascended being. But are they channeling who they think, or could it be a trickster on the other end?
Well, in the self-mastery classes, we teach about that, because there are trickster spirits or faker spirits, and there are astral beings will come in and say, "I'm this," or "I'm that." And it's all about intersensitivity training and learning how to sense the frequencies and listen to their message too. And if it's outside of universal law, or if they're using flattery to hook you in, telling you you're the chosen one and things like that, that's a big indicator that they'll try to divide you and prey on your ego and build you up and things like that. And that's how they get in. But when you understand the true nature of creator, whatever you want to call it, God, creator, great spirit, and you realize it's the one consciousness that encompasses all consciousness and all planes and dimensions throughout the multiverse, and it's within you, and you make that connection, then the other connections just fall away. They can't hang out with that kind of energy. And love's the ultimate power, and when you can channel the love of creator through you into these situations, it puts an end to it pretty quickly. But that's why it's so important to know who your main teacher and guide is, and work with the established masters and beings, and use discernment, and use universal law, to discern whether or not these beings are in your highest and best good. And you can tell by their messages, basically, and their frequency. So when you get to a certain level, that's what we teach. We teach people the intersensitivity training and self-mastery training. We teach people how to discern, how to sense frequencies, how to sense agendas, and if they go outside of universal law, then you have to, cut the connection and do clearings.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are very impressed by contact experiences, and certainly, anyone that has a story about contact with any kind of physical extraterrestrial being, I mean, that's always very impressive. But it sounds like you would agree that actually the more important contact is the one with the inner self, the one where
Yeah.
we come in touch with that higher self that is connected with universal source, and that we kind of like tap into that, and that helps us in encountering these extraterrestrials. Some may be genuinely benevolent, wanting to help, but some may be tricksters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. What we've seen a lot of times is that people will kind of go off the deep end. They start out really great and they start getting messages, but they don't have any training. And because they don't have the training, other things slip in later. And then pretty soon, these other things have made all these promises and flattery messages, and don't worry, we'll do everything for you, and then they go off on that tangent, but everything we do is to empower the individual to make their own personal, God, creator, great spirit connection. And that's what they should be doing too. If they're benevolent beings, they should be teaching you how to make your own connection. And when you make your own personal connection like that, you're going to be connected with them as well, because they're connected to that same force, whatever you want to call it. And that's how you're living in harmony with all these higher dimensions. But when you get down in the ego, and especially the spiritual ego, that one really gets you. And then you start going into narcissism and everything else, and it's like it's very hard to come back from that. When people go down that road, it's very hard to bring them back and get back into humility and realize, you're not any more special than anybody else. We're all special. We're all chosen. The chosen ones are those who chose, to hook up with the higher consciousness. So it's really important to stay humble and stay grounded, and really push personal responsibility, because that's what it's so important. People need to take personal responsibility for their world, their life, their frequencies, the dimensions around them, everything. It's all about that, versus thinking somebody's going to come in and fix everything and do everything for you, and create heaven on earth. That begins from within and extends outward.
Mm-hmm. Well, the personal responsibility one, that's can be very controversial. I know a lot of people would like to see themselves as victims to these kind of unjust forces around them, but it sounds like that you subscribe to that philosophy that we manifest the world through our own thoughts and actions, and what happens to us is a result of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are people, there are wounds and traumas that were created from even past lives in other civilizations, the wars of Orion and things like that. And when those aren't healed, those are doors, those are chinks in your armor that allow them to come in, terrorize you again. And so it's so important right now to heal that, to heal the wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions, past life, childhood, everything, and get rid of those chinks in your armor so they can't come in and create the fears and the guilt and the unworthiness. And even a lot of the religions push fear, guilt, and unworthiness and an external God, and those are all detours from making your own personal connection. So it's not empowering, it's disempowering, when they do that.
Well, I know, you've been at your ranch there in Mount Adams for 40 years, doing many night sightings, and I think you are kind of among the few uh, contactees who actually has a lot of photographs and videos
Yeah.
supporting their experiences. And I know you got thousands of videos that you've accumulated over the years, but you sent me a selection of 10 of what you've done, of what you photographed recently in Hawaii. So why don't we just kind of go through that, and you tell us what was in each of these photos or videos. So, but first, I think there was one that you sent me of what looked like a figure, a being, a celestial, a master. So you want to tell us who that is?
Oh, the Mary one. The ones when I was between 4 and 5 years old, when I was in the hospital, I was dying of bronchial pneumonia. And she kept coming to me over and over again, and she'd stroke my head and talk to me and pull me out of it. And the doctors would tell my parents, "We don't think he's going to make it through the night." And she kept pulling me out of it. And then the last encounter I had with her, she gave me this substance, and it was kind of the consistency of ice cream, but it wasn't cold. And I ate it, and I was never sick. I never missed a day of school after that. And I'm pretty sure I know what it is. It's a crystallized form of oxygen, basically, which is the highest systemic antibiotic you can get. But the uh, so that was one of the first encounters, and she's always with me. She's always hanging out. And as a disclaimer, I want to. She's made it very clear she's not Catholic. That she's a universal being. She's here for all the children, and it's the House of Mary, which is Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, the grandmothers, everything. And that force is coming in really strong right now. And they're not real happy with what's been going on with the children and things like that. So they're a force behind putting an end to all this, nonsense that's been going on with the kids and stuff. But that was one experience.
So this image, is that an illustration or an actual photograph?
Yeah, it was a guy by the name of Master Khan, or Khansan. He's a Taoist monk, and he came to the ranch and he was teaching Qigong and some other things and did a workshop. And he took that photo during a workshop where he did a workshop, and then I did one, a self-mastery training. And when Mary came in, the women in the room were just crying. It was intense, very powerful energy. And he saw her. He does like 21-day dark retreats in caves and things like that. And he sees the other dimension. So he's taken a lot of photos at the ranch of these beings when they appeared to him. And I would be working with these beings. I said, "Hey, grab your camera. Can you take a photograph of him?" Because he sees them very clearly and he gets photos. But we have a lot of photos taken by guests, of beings on the ranch. I mean, everything from ascended masters. We've had Babaji appear there, Ezekiel, a being I work with. A lot of the ETs, photographs of them appearing there, Pleiadians and things like that. There's so many different realms going on there. We even have the nature spirits showing up in Bigfoot cruises through the ranch on a regular basis. So a lot of eyewitnesses. I kind of leave Bigfoot alone. Everybody's kind of hassling them, and I just said, leave them alone. They're people, and they don't want to be bothered. They just want to do their own thing. And if you don't go there, with pure intent and open mind and loving heart, they're not going to have anything to do with you, basically. So
Yeah, I remember being at Mount Adams in 2006, where you had one of your conferences, and
Yeah.
I just remember the really incredibly high vibe that was there. So I'm not surprised that you can get these celestial beings showing up there, and people can see them and take photographs of them, if they're ready. And so, yeah, that's amazing. So that's Mary, Mother Mary, with some sort of veil around her.
Yeah. Yeah, and it looks just like the painting of her. There's some paintings of her from ancient paintings, and it looks just like them. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
she's not quite physical. That's why it's a little washed out. She's not totally physical, but we have actually photographs of Kuan Yin. I didn't send those appearing. One of them I sent you where she's in an energy form, but she actually took on almost a physical appearance, and she's sitting there with her little chalice, her little light chalice in her hand and everything.
Mhm. Okay. Well, you sent me some more photos, some photos and videos of UFOs. So why don't we go through some of those? If you want to put one of those up, Jazz. Okay. So yeah, this looks like some kind of cigar-shaped craft.
Yeah, that's the back end of it, the light coming off the back end of it. But that one came in. I had a pretty large group there, and they were meditating, and a bunch of women. And I told them, I said, "Hey, tonight a big one's going to come in low," and it did. It came in nice and low and came right over the group. And that's just a still shot of a video. And it came right over us, right over the house, circled around behind the trees, and then went off. And everybody was screaming and hollering. Everybody was so excited on that one. But that's just one of many. I just sent a few because we have so many on our website. It's
Mhm.
I always feel like I want people to have their own experience, take their own photos and things like that. It's important. It's like I'm not here to sell or push anything. I just want to create space for people to have their own experience, and then nobody can take it away from them.
Okay. Well, there's some more. So you want to show us the next one there, Jazz? We've got some orbs. All right. So tell us
Yeah.
about.
And this just shows the energy at the ranch, that we have these beautiful pictures of people meditating out there, and they're surrounded by plasma fields and orbs and things. And we call it the field of dreams that people go into. And a lot of people have had spontaneous healings there, and there's no explanation for it. Everything from broken arms and backs and things like that, and people in wheelchairs getting up and walking. It's been pretty crazy. But when that happens, I always tell people, I don't take credit for the healing, and I don't take blame for the lack of healing, because it's between them and the forces that are there as to what happens. And so some people are wide open and have amazing experiences, and other people are kind of fearful and they push, they hold things back. And so it's basically between them and creator what happens at the ranch.
Mhm. And the orbs. I mean, what do you think they are? Are they kind of living entities, or?
Yeah, they're beings. They're just higher dimensional beings without bodies, basically. And they're everything from masters to ETs to animal spirits. We've seen bears and mountain lions and all kinds of faces in these orbs. Elven beings in the orbs. Some have the pointy ears and everything. Some are portals. They're whole portals into different worlds. But it's I mean, that's a whole show in itself, just the nature of orbs, basically.
Awesome. Okay. Well, there's now we got a video showing some kind of a UFO. Again, I guess this one was taken. Looks like Hawaii. Is that?
Yeah, this was when I was in Hawaii. We had 1,300 ships in 3 months come over the ranch, and I was inviting a bunch of the locals out to see them, and they just had their minds blown, and they went and told all their friends, and then it started escalating. But we're not really open yet. We're getting we're in a process of seeing how that goes. But um, these ships just come in over and over. They're massive. We go on Heavens Above and make sure we're not filming the space station. This one's actually it's see that would be going north. Actually, that one be going uh, it's the northwest, basically, which is kind of the opposite of the space station. But we just see these over and over again coming in, and you can see they're coming down really low.
Mhm. And you said you use Heavens Above, which is a tracking app for satellite.
Tracking app to find out any major satellites over the area. If there's a space station or Evastar, or they have all these different larger satellites, and you can look it up and find out if the satellites are over the area.
Okay. So you're pretty confident then that these are not satellites, because the tracking app is showing that there's nothing should be there, but yet there it is.
And some of these things right here, I've had NASA people look at these, and we have our own space fleet and our own ships and things like that. But when they see these, they said, we don't know who these are. These aren't ours. And so even special ops people and things like that have looked at it, and that are part of. And I had an Air Force base commander and a Lockheed engineer and a triple PhD born engineer. They all went on record. They went on the Art Bell show, actually, when Art was around, and testified that these ships aren't ours. We don't know whose they are. And they were interacting with them, and they went and testified on Art Bell show. And then the next day they go, we might get into trouble for that. They go, maybe we shouldn't have done that, but it was kind of spontaneous.
Okay, well, I know there's some more video, and some of the videos show the craft seeming to change direction, which is always very interesting. So I don't know, is this the same one? Can you put another one on, Graz?
So these are like plasma ships, and they're just massive, and they come over, and they're not really well defined because they're just pure energy when they come over, and you can see how close these are. A lot of these I have them flying, shows the house, the roof lines and things like that. But again, we have, even on YouTube and those other channels, we have just hundreds of ships on there. I don't know how many ships. Like, we've got hours and hours of footage of this happening on a daily basis.
Okay. Yeah, so the Mount Adams, and now more recently Hawaii. You got lots of these videos of what looks like some kind of craft, either extraterrestrial or secret space program.
Yeah, I don't think these are secret space program, because just of the energy that they're exhibiting, they just put off massive fields, and when you feel them when they come over, you get this real heart energy. I know William Henry was out at the ranch, and when they came in, a big one flew over just like this, and I go, Henry, did you see that? I said, or William, I said, do you see that? And he goes, yeah. He goes, what do you mean see it? I felt it. So you feel them when they come over. There's an intense heart connection and a consciousness and energy exchange when they come in. And that's why when we have these events like the self-mastery classes, you can hear everybody screaming and hollering and hooting and having a good time when they come in. Everybody's excited. There's no fear there because of this exchange that happens.
Mm-hmm. Right. The heart-centered contact is happening. Right. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah, tell us about this one.
Well, this one, you can see multiple ships. There's one coming up. One just went zipping by. Another one up to the right. And I've had as many as 6 ships in one frame. And one time I filmed like 15 or 20, coming every different direction in one frame. And then we look at the Starlink, when I have footage of the Starlink going over and things like that. So we know these aren't Starlink because they're going in multiple directions. And, and so it's funny. A lot of them come and take a look. And we have a lot of video of the space station coming over with multiple ships checking it out. And right in front of it, flying right in front of its path, is big, big motherships going right in front of it and then trailing it. And I had an engineer here that had connections, and he called them. He said, hey, do you have a ship up there that's outfitting the space station? They said, no, the shuttles are all grounded. There's nothing up there. What about anything from Russia up there? And they said, no, nothing like this. And said, well, we just filmed 2 massive ships, one going in front of it, one following it. And all of a sudden they changed their tune really quick, and so I don't know. So there's another one going by the top of it, but I don't know how uh, I don't know how they can say that they haven't seen anything up there because I mean it's in their face. It almost collides with.
Yeah, it's very impressive. I mean, what? I mean, I don't think it's a satellite just because it looks like it's changing direction. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
going in a straight line. It actually
mine
is.
will do these big arcing turns.
Mhm.
We've had two coming right at each other in reverse course and go back the other way. I had a scientist there, and he goes, he goes, I'll believe this if they reverse course and go back the other way. Two were coming right at each other, and they did. They stopped and went back the other way, and it just blew his mind. He goes, okay, I can't explain that. I can't wrap my head around that.
Mhm. Okay, well, let's go to the next one. Yeah, what is that?
And this is some of the apparitions starting to appear here. We have a lot of that. We've had some beautiful photos of Babaji, and this is like an aspect of it's a higher dimensional aspect of Kuan Yin that's starting to appear. And this was in right over a picnic bench. Kathy, you might have met her. She filmed this one, but a lot of these photos, what's nice is they're all taken by guests and other researchers and things like that. So, I've got their experience, their testimony, other people there at the time. And so it's not like, people go, oh, you Photoshop that. And I go, like if everybody saw me on a computer, they would realize that my skills are very, very limited on a computer. I mean, even sending you these pictures, I was having problems.
Okay, all right. Well, that does look like some kind of
Yeah, if you look close at it, I don't know
information.
if you blow it up a little bit, you can actually see a female. You can see a female face in it and a white gown.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So that kind of veil between the dimensions or the densities is
Yeah.
very thin there at Mount Adams.
Yeah, there's a close up of it. You kind of see a brown, she has kind of brown hair and a gown on. Um, what's going on here is that even the government knows about this. We're in the purple zone, and Mount Adams has a massive amount of energy coming off of it. And we've recorded it with PIP technology, Harold Oldfield's technology. And the zone that we're in, it's a place where the veils are very, very thin. And it's very easy to connect with other dimensional beings. And so that's why people have so many amazing experiences there, just because it's in that purple zone. And they have these zones mapped out. You can actually check it out. But the whole magnetic field is different there than it is on other places.
So I know you have an annual conference there. Is that you have one coming up pretty soon?
No, we kind of backed off on that because we're having so many problems.
Oh,
Because, there's a lot of blowback from doing this. And then we went through the COVID thing and we stayed open, through all that and got all kinds of blowback from that. And the it was getting so crazy and I was getting so much attacks and things like that that we decided to rework everything. And now what we're doing is we're really focusing on smaller events like self-mastery ambassador training events and things like that, where people come up that want to have more of a spiritual, they want to make their own connection and not just a party scene. And so we've kind of changed the format, and we have all kinds of yoga workshops, herbal workshops, foraging workshops, and things like that. We're moving more into an earthy and spiritual connection with this, because the other energy brings a lot of hitchhikers with it. People bring a lot of entities with them, and they want to drink, and we have a no drug, no alcohol policy and things like that. So we decided to kind of change the format around.
okay. Well, that makes sense. Definitely, smaller crowds are easier to manage. Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's go to the next image. All right. Here's another one. Looks like Hawaii again.
Yeah, this is in Hawaii. I just got back from Hawaii, so I've been out and about, but and you can see how low this is. I mean, this is actually going down and landing, and they're going up on the mountain up there, and we're seeing them a lot out in the ocean. We've been getting a lot of them out in the ocean. I had a pet pig there for a little while. He was a little wild boar that was hanging out, and I have photographs of him running out down the field and the UFO be in front of him. It's kind of funny, but I had to kind of make sure he stayed in the jungle. He grew up and got kind of aggressive and things, so he wasn't fun anymore. So we fenced off that area and kind of left him out in the forest.
Okay, all right. So that's, and I think there was one, Jazz, with the power up. You want to show that one? Here we go.
Here's one where I tell it to power up. I tell it, I go flash, and it goes. I don't know if you can hear the sound with that, but
There you go, the power up. Perfect.
yeah. But right before it powered up, there's a lot of them. It'll come in and I'll go flash, power up, and it'll do it right on call. And I had one coming in behind a tree, and I was going, and it started power up, and I go, no, I can't film you, and it went back down again, and it waited till it got around the tree, and then it came into open sight, and then it totally powered up. So you can see there's total telepathic contact with these and the group, and when the group starts asking it, you start communicating with them and ask them to power up or turn or do things like that. And then there's a huge door on the mountain, and I'll walk out there with a laser and I'll shoot it at the door, and I go knock knock on the door, and then the door opens, and we have ships coming in and out of the door. So there's a big galactic base where they come in and out on a regular basis.
Yeah, great. Well, those power ups, they're always very exciting to see. I remember seeing it. I saw my first one in 2006 with you at Mount Adams, and seen it a few other times in Mount Shasta. I've seen it, but it's always very impressive.
A lot of people come here, and they're major people in the UFO community. Billy Carson was here, and a lot of people, and he had an amazing experience here. And what I've seen is a lot of people have never seen a UFO, but they're major people in the community, but they don't have any evidence or haven't seen any UFOs themselves, and they just go ballistic when they see these things. And I know, was it Jimmy Church was here, and one just went right over his head, and there's two or three, and he fell over and spilt his coffee. And you can hear him; he's getting all excited about it. But we have I always say ECETI is where the debunkers come to die, because they just can't. Some people will try, but they just cannot. You can't ignore. There's so much activity, you just can't ignore it.
Yeah. Well, now I want to kind of shift gears now to what's happening around the world. Now you mentioned the kind of benevolent ETs.
Mm-hmm.
Now I just got back from Egypt, and I spent a couple of weeks there going to the various temples, and we kept seeing Sekhmet. The statues of Sekhmet. So who is Sekhmet, and what does that being have to do with Egypt and with us today?
Yeah, great question, because those are the ancient Lyrians. They're actually they're Syrians. They're from Lyra, and most of them are in the Sirius section now, but they are the protectors of the gods, and the gods were the Anunnaki, which were the ancient Lyrians that came here, and the Lyrians are very tall. They're the bearded gods. Every religion has their bearded god story. They were the ancient ones. And so the feline beings, there's three levels to them. One is a humanoid cat being. Another one is kind of like a panther being, but they're upright. They walk upright or can go down on all fours if they want to move really fast. And then you have the lion beings, which are, they're 17 feet tall. They're huge. I mean, the Sekhmet's about 14 feet tall, and because the females are a little smaller, but they've been around forever. Narsringa, in India, Narisha, which is the protectors of the gods there. There's paintings of Narisha that's doing, I think it's doing like a sword hand thing, saying, I'm protecting the gods, don't mess with them. There's photographs of that, or paintings of it. And so there's a long history of them, even in other South American countries. They're digging up these old temples and finding these statues of them. But they've been around forever. And what happened when the Lyrians, the problem with the Lyrians is that, and they're the most ancient ancestors that we know of, that we have a record of. There's other ones here. They were here 600 million years ago, and the Andromedans were here after that, and then the Lyrians came, the Anunnaki, and then the Pleiadians came back, which their ancestors are the Lyrians, and they came back and created Atlantis and Lemuria. So the Earth is actually a history of colonization, is what's happened on the Earth, and that's where we get our bearded gods from, and demigods and things like that. And the stories of they found Earth women to be fair and took them as wives, and then so you have demigods. But we really need to know our real history to understand. But the problem with the Anunnaki is they would, and it happened in Atlantis, Lemuria too, is they would separate. They would build up the civilization, and then they would separate, and they'd get into power struggles and turf wars, and then they would go at it, and then the next thing you know, everybody had to start over as primitives, basically, when they were done. And same thing happened with Atlantis and Lemuria. And now we're at that same epoch right now, where we're making a choice right now. Are we going to misuse technology? Are we going to go into this full-on nuclear war? Are we going to, where are we going to go with this and start over as primitives again? I know the benevolent ETs are watching this. They're not going to allow any kind of nuclear exchange. That's off the table, because they're here too. They have their bases here too as well. But but what happened is when they fell, the feline beings left, and they said, "Look, you're going against universal law. We can't protect you anymore. We can't be part of this." And they left, and they went back to the Sirius system, and so Lyra kind of got destroyed too as well. They had big turf wars and in that system as well, and kind of destroyed their homeworld, or most of it. There's some of it left, but our ancient history, humanity goes back to the mainly the ancient Lyrians that came here, that started interbreeding with a man that was developing naturally on Earth, the Denisovian man, basically. And so we're a big combination of genetics from the stars and human, Earth human, that we're developing here naturally as well. And so it's, even the Atlantis and Lemuria, those brought in other colonies from the Orion system and other ones that interacted and interbred as well. So we're just a big genetic soup down here, and they're upgrading it.
Well, what do you know of Thoth or Jehuti, that the ibis-headed being that you see all over the place in Egypt in all the artwork, and was the great scholar? Well, what do you know of him?
Some of these beings, I really don't. There is a possibility. There was a lot of tinkering going on where things were half man, half animal, and that was in the ancient past. And those they've actually found the bones and covered it up. They've got half man, half horse, half man, half like centaurs and things like that. They have all of that, half bull. A lot of that was genetic tinkering. It didn't work out, and so they're kind of I don't even think they could breed, and continue, basically. But there was a lot of that going on. But I have a feeling that with Thoth or Toth, or I'm not even sure how to say it. Everybody says it differently. I think that was a mask that he wore. I think he was part of the human experience, and didn't really have a bird head, because they wore a lot of headdresses back then, and they were different too. They were, we call them the cone heads. Their skulls were different. The Anunnaki had the big elongated skulls and things like that, and they're digging them up everywhere. And the ancient ones are giants. Some of those were 24 to 30 feet tall. They came here, the original ones. But it's just, our history is rich in visitors from the stars, and they created colonies here and interacted. And some were benevolent and some weren't. Some were evolved tyrants that had technology that looked like magic to us. I mean, it was incredible. But and some were very self-serving, and some were, aligned with universal law, and they helped us out quite a bit. So it's like, people pigeonhole this. They make all the Anunnaki bad. There's one named Inha that appeared to me, and she's from the sixth dimension, and they continue to evolve. The benevolent ones continue to evolve, and they're coming from the sixth dimension. The fallen Anunnaki couldn't get out of the fourth dimension because they went against universal law, and that created karma, and so a lot of the benevolent ones are actually coming back. And this is something we really need to understand, is that Marduk, back 450,000 years ago, made a pact with the reptilians, and he wanted total supremacy of the earth. And because in doing so, kind of sold us out down. And so we've been under a draconian law ever since. Excuse me. And that's coming to an end because benevolent ones are coming in and saying, look, we're going to go back to universal law. We're not, draconian law is over. It's going to be an end of tyranny. And those who want to continue with this tyrannical program are not frequency specific to the earth. And the earth's evolving and ascending, and they're devolving, they're imploding. And if they don't shift gears and go with the program, they're just not going to be here anymore.
So in terms of the Great Flood that destroyed Atlantis and the role of the Anunnaki, I mean, Marduk was in charge at the time, and Enlil was in commander of the space fleets.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be, or Ea was supposed to be the benevolent one, and he kind of lost the power struggle and was driven off out of our solar system. And so for the next 13,000 years or whatever, we were under the control of the draconians and so forth.
Yeah.
But now the negative Anunnaki have left, and so you would agree or disagree that Enki has come back with a positive faction, and they're here to kind of help heal things and heal all the rifts in the planet?
Yeah, I've talked a lot about that. Quite a long time ago, I was talking about that, and there is a benevolent side to the Anunnaki, and we work a lot with Inha, and I've had conversations with Enki as well, and some of the other ones, and I had a past life where I was a hybrid. I was half human, half Anunnaki. I have full memory of my lifetimes, and the I remember those times where you had to choose. You had to choose which side you were going to go with. And one group was aligned with universal law, and they continued to evolve. And the other group collapsed in on itself, and they had all kinds of power struggles and wanted to control and dominate everything. And it's that same thing we're doing now. We're running into these same programs. But what I found out was to understand that. I'm not sure how involved Enki is with this because he's kind of moved on, but the benevolent Anunnaki are returning now because they're karmically, they kind of have to clean up the mess that they did, 450,000 years ago. They feel kind of like a duty, even though it wasn't them that did it, it was their ancestors. And so they're coming back to help out. So there's a major cleanup going on, and they're working along with, we've got the Andromedans, the Orion Counts of Light, the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, the Sirians, and feline beings. They're all working together right now in this major cleanup, along with the white hats and things like that. And so it's kind of like a lot of the white hats, there's things outside of their pay grade. There's some very nasty things that they are not equipped to deal with, and they're being dealt with by these other beings. And everybody's doing their part now in this major planetary liberation that's well underway right now. And so you can see the head of the snake or the serpent or whatever has been pretty much cut off. And now we're cleaning up all the other stuff, that as it on down. And, we still have a lot of these tyrannical functions, people that just extort money out of others, that want to control and dominate. There's still a lot of that left, and that's being turned around. That's clean. That's mainly being done through frequency. It's the frequency is accelerating their karma, and it's amplifying their karma. So they're being exposed and taking themselves out, basically. And so it's more like frequency wars going on the highest level. It's a war between consciousness and energy, and those who are here to serve humanity, the earth, and those who are self-serving, that want to control and dominate. And it's the age-old good versus evil thing being played out on. That's the simplest explanation.
When it comes to the dark ETs, the negative ones, have they been mainly or largely kicked out of our solar system because of this infusion of benevolent extraterrestrial groups and higher dimensional beings, and that what's left is just kind of like small pockets here and there, creating trouble, working with their former minions in the deep state? Is that all that left, or are there still, some people are saying, well, we're on the verge of an alien invasion, a negative alien invasion?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of all of that?
People go, there's no invasion because they've always been here.
Mhm.
I mean, they've been, we've been under draconian law, under their thumb for 450,000 years. So the ones coming in now are the liberators, and they're coming here to help liberate the planet. Excuse me. So I wouldn't be worrying about an alien invasion. I'd be more worried about cleaning up what's been here, acting, and detrimental to humanity and nature for God knows how long. And so that's basically what's going on. We've got all the massive cleanup going on with all these deep underground bases and tunnels and things like that. And they've corrupted quite a few humans that have gone along with them, seeking power and wealth and fame and things like that. And so all that's being exposed and being dealt with right now. It's imploding on itself. You can see, Hollywood's going down the tube right now, and all these, the music industry, everything's being exposed, for all the nonsense that they've gotten involved in. So it's the old world is collapsing in on itself, and the old world based on power over others and control and domination, that whole world is collapsing in on itself. And there's a whole new world coming in, which is about personal empowerment and freedom and things like that. So, and we're in this struggle right now of we have to totally undo this whole program that's been put into place, and we're in the middle of that.
Well, what do you know of the kind of micronova solar flares that's supposed to kind of do a reset of the planet? You think something like that's on the cards? Is that going to happen?
Well, we've had a series. I've always said there's going to be a series of events, not, and it's going to come up to the critical mass. And so, and that's what we've been going through. We've been going through one major solar event after another. There's also energies coming in from unknown places. NASA doesn't even know where they're coming from. And Cygnus and other places, there's huge influxes of energy coming in. At one time, there's maybe 50 hits a day, and now we're up into thousands of hits, of these energies hitting the planet. And the way I look at it too is that when you bring in all of these beings with their higher consciousness and energy, adding that to the collective consciousness, it's going to create a huge implosion of this lower consciousness, and it's going to either have to rise to the occasion or it's going to implode on itself. And so it's a multidimensional thing going on. I mean, it's tied to the sun and a natural event that happens every so many thousand years. And it's also tied to conscious and energy. And every time we get a big solar flare hit us, or a CME, it's not just the energy coming in, there's consciousness coming in as well with that. And so it's like the creator saying, we're going to the next level. We're moving on. And when these big flares come off and hit us, they excite the bioelectric fields around the body, and they put people in process. And when they did that with monkeys, Stanford research found out monkeys exhibited behavior from comatose to self-mutilation. So we don't have to behave like monkeys when we know these energies coming in. We go, oh, major flare today. People are going to be a little crazy. Maybe I'll stay home. And people get tired and then excited, and as the fields go up and down. And so it also creates severe weather and major increase in earthquake and volcanic activity. So the whole Earth is expanding and absorbing all this energy, and we just need to pay attention and expand with it, as to get through this shift.
Do you know anything about these space arcs that a few people have been describing that are kind of like hidden on the Earth or in our solar system, and that they're being activated by the arrival?
Yeah, that one in Antarctica is a good one. Yeah, that's I tried to explain that to people. I said, use base logic on this. There's this massive event going on there. It's expanding, it's moving, it's bigger, it's getting bigger and bigger. If they're saying it's generating these 80-foot waves, then why aren't all the people in Africa wiped out? Because it's moving towards Africa and things like that. Well, what we're looking at is energy, and we're looking at something that I can't even explain. It's not physical. It's actually generating a massive amount of energy. It's sending off huge gravity waves into space. And that is negating a lot of the energy that's hitting us from the suns and things like that. So it's the only way I can explain it when you tune into it. It's like a force of nature, and that's been activated, and it's conscious. It's multidimensional. It's actually doing some good. It's doing some major good right now. And it's not, everybody's freaking out about it, and I wouldn't freak out about it. I wish there was more of those on the planet being activated.
Yeah, I've seen those giant kind of like anomalies on the oceanic charts, and yeah,
Yeah.
people have been speculating about it. What are they? And but that makes sense that there's some kind of energy. But you're saying that that's being transmitted from a space arc in Antarctica, and it's designed to kind of help us deal with all of these solar shifts and events that are happening.
I think it's very, whatever it is, it's very ancient. It's been there forever. And again, it's not so much, I guess a space arc might be the best description we can give of it, but it's something else. It's kind of beyond our vocabulary to explain it.
Okay. Well, what do you know about inner Earth civilizations? I mean, there's that they
Yeah.
span the spectrum of humanoid versus non-humanoid beings, going all the way back. So, yeah, what do you know about the inner Earthers, and how are they relevant to what's happening today?
Well, they're helping. There's in the mountain over here, Mount Adams, there's this huge door that opens, and ships coming out of the door. Other things get out every once in a while. There's people have been seeing pterodactyls flying around here, and police have seen them. A lot of witnesses. We've seen them here, but so there's a lot going on there. So in the mountain, there's levels. There's one level which is a galactic airport. There's another level where there's extreme technology that's emitting a huge frequency that's actually affecting the whole Earth, and it's positive. And then below that are the inner Earth people are down below that, and they're in the Tetons. They're in a lot of different places. They're in the Himalayas, and there's a very diverse groups there. There's some people that you just call them masters. Basically, they're very, very highly evolved. There's some very tall beings that are kind of giants in there. There are I've seen these little beings in robes, that have almost like a beagle head to them. It sounds crazy, but there's a little being by the name of DeBeg that's in there, and he's kind of in charge of the taller ones because he's powerful conscious and energy. A lot of the Elven kingdom, the six-dimensional Elven beings are the ones that are guarding the gateways and the doors there. The fairy kingdom's in there. There's a lot of bizarre creatures, I would say, that look very different, things that we're not used to seeing, but it seems like they all get along peacefully there. But we've had nothing but positive experiences with them. We have a lot of contacts happening here because we're in that purple zone that we talk about. So people will see these beings, and we have photographs of fairies flying through the air with crystals in their hands and gnomes and all that stuff. It's real. They do exist. And if you come out there with a bad attitude and you're arrogant, you'll never see them. You'll never know they're there. But if you raise your frequency, they'll find you. It's like the Native Americans have a saying about Bigfoot. If you go out searching for Bigfoot, you'll never find it. But if Bigfoot wants to, it'll find you. So we have to change our attitude about that and be a lot more trying to think of the word, humble about it. We need to ask permission, we need to make offerings and raise our frequency and open your heart and send love and joy and bliss to them, and tell them you mean no harm. And then you're going to have an experience. Take a flute out there and play a flute. They're curious, they'll come check it out. But now to me, these things happen all around me all the time. I go, well, that was interesting. It's like, and then I see the other side too. I see the shadow side as well. And I've been trained how to deal with that, how to clear that out. But when veils come down, you're going to see some exquisitely beautiful beings, and you're going to see some pretty crazy stuff too. Shadow beings and things like that need to be moved on.
Do you think we're on one timeline, or do we have multiple timelines? Some people talk about the kind of organic ascension timeline where humanity evolves into this 5D consciousness, and others talk about this transhumanist timeline where people are co-opted, and so some think we might go separate ways, or is it all going to be combined into one? What do you think lies ahead?
Well, there's multiple timelines and they're collapsing like crazy, and you'll feel them. You kind of feel this foreboding energy, like, oh my God, something's on the horizon, something really ugly is getting ready to happen. And then it just goes away. And you go, what happened? All of a sudden I feel great. What happened? You don't know. And that's usually when these timelines collapse. And so what's happening is the positive timeline is taking over, and the negative timelines that were generated by the dark hearts and things like that, they're collapsing, and they don't know why. They don't know who's doing it, but all their timelines are collapsing. And they've seen it through the looking glass. They realize that their world's coming to an end, and a lot of them, their lives are coming to an end too, because they're not frequency specific. But if your heart's closed, you're probably going to have a heart attack. There's things like that happen. Like a lot of the physical ailments we have have emotional counterparts and things like that. But and so it's really important right now to cleanse, to cleanse the physical body, clear your emotional body, your mental body, get on track, focus on the higher conscious energy to make this shift, because the old timelines are collapsing one after another, and the higher beings are doing it. They're collapsing them. We're going into a singularity, which is the positive timeline that we'll be moving on.
So how quickly do you think all this is going to unfold? I mean, is it going to happen at 2024, or are we talking 5 years? When do you think this kind of higher organic timeline emerges?
Some of it weeks, they're weeks away. But, I think a lot of it depends on the individual. And so a lot of us are having these amazing experiences. We're having interactions with higher beings and masters. And then you got the muggles that aren't seeing anything, that are just doing their everyday job and don't care. And they all they care about is going home and turn on the TV and eat pizza and watching a football game, basically, which is okay. I mean, that's where they want to be. But for them, it's going to be a much slower process. And so I think this process is going to happen no matter what. It's unstoppable. And we are going to see an end to tyranny. We're going to see an end to the weaponization of all the age. All that stuff is all going to come to an end, because we have to align with universal law. And so universal law is like creator's law, and all these other beings are aligned with universal law, and it's their consciousness and their way of living, and that's coming in to play. So you've got the creator, and you've got all the higher dimensional beings pressing in, and you've got the earth ascending, and these dark hearts are caught in the middle, and they've got nowhere to go, but they're either going to implode or they're going to heal. Those are the only two options right now.
Okay, so just kind of like bringing this to a close, any final words you want to share about what you think people need to know as we are entering into these kind of end times?
I think one real important thing we need to realize is that, we have a T-shirt that says it's all about frequency rise, so it's all about raising our frequency and doing what we need to stay grounded. Take your shoes off and recalibrate with the earth. Eat lighter, do whatever cleanses you can to just help your body get through these shifts, and find a practice. We do a lot of Qigong, a lot of prayer, meditation circles, things like that here. Find some kind of a spiritual practice. Get out in nature as much as possible. Get in the ocean. That's really important. If you can, if you're near an ocean, water is real important. But, right now we have to just really start being kind to each other and the planet, and align ourselves with universal law, which is really simple. It's about universal peace, brother, sisterly love, individual freedom, and prosperity for everybody. And those who are not, the war and the disease profiteers, all that is collapsing right now, and it's all coming up, and we're seeing it for what it is. We're seeing, the fingers in the pies and who's doing what. It's all being exposed right now, and that whole program is going to collapse in on itself. And so, get a lot of popcorn, and enjoy the show, because nobody can stop what's coming. It's massive. It's multidimensional, and the creator's behind it.
Well, in the meantime, if people want to do one of your workshops, where do they go to find out, the timing and all the logistics?
Yeah, if you go to ECETI, just go to ECETI.org, and all the information is on there. We just did a foraging workshop where we're showing people where all the different herbs and everything here, and we have herbal workshops where they show how to make all the remedies and things. And then we've got some yoga workshops coming up too that are very high level yoga workshops aligned with Babaji and the masters, and there's so much going on. But we have the self-mastery ambassador training workshops. I think June 7th is the first one, and so people really come and get the tools. They make their own connection, and it's very empowering. It's not, we kind of stay away from the guru thing. We tell people, if you're, God is not external. If you're worshiping me, you're doing the external thing. You're missing the mark, because, I guarantee you I'm not infallible. I'm working through my issues just like everybody else. And it's very important that people find their own unique purpose for being here and make their own personal connection with Creator, and join the rest of the greater family of man. They're coming in to help us out right now. And that's basically what our focus is. And be kind to others, and just kind of stay out of all the drama, because everybody's trying to pull you in, to their programs. And so we need to stop the external craziness and go within right now to get through these times.
Wise words.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, James, for 40 years of promoting Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. That's really incredible. But thank you.
It's been a rough road.
Yes.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. visit exopoliticstoday.com.